Welcome back to Live Now with Veenu and Chuck. I'm your host, Veenu Keller, along with my brother from another mother, Chuck Hogan. We want to welcome you to Spanglish World Network and her network on Zingo TV's channel 250 and 251. Please remember to download both the Zingo TV app on respective app stores and iOS and Android devices. While you download, make sure to rate and leave a comment. The app is free. Zingo TV is also available on Google Chromecast, Amazon Fire Sticks, Roku Sticks, and all smart TVs 2016 and forward. So today, Chuck and I have an amazing talk to have with you guys today. And it's really about the levels of that we learn at, the consciousness. We have 4 different levels that we learn information. And so, Chuck and I were talking about what's next, like what can we do to help you guys? Because, let's be honest, this show is really about, when we say live now, it's how are we living now? How are we getting past yesterday, because it's in the past, and tomorrow is definitely a mystery, right? So if Chuck and I can bring you things to help all of you do better in your life and show up as the best you, then you will be guaranteed to have the best life. So Chuck, why don't you go ahead and start us off, and let's get this ball rolling about the 4 different levels of learning.
Thanks so much, Veenu. Yeah, to your point, it's so important that we meet that now. Many times we can get frustrated with self, and I go, oh, why is that? I haven't learned it yet in the way that you feel comfortable, competent, and conscientious about it. So when we're learning information, there's several things that are really important to note. So let's go back to when you were a kid, because we've all been there. And we start to ask ourselves and going, okay, when you're learning how to walk, you have this level of learning that's called unconscious incompetence. You're watching other people walk, they have locomotion, your parents are carrying you around, but you're learning how to crawl. In fact, you're just getting into your own body. And some people go, oh, you don't have the aptitude. Well, that's not true. You have the muscles, you have the texture as far as context, and you're viewing everything. The challenge is you haven't learned the system. You haven't learned how to manipulate body weight, and your sensory awareness is somewhat limited. Why? Because your needs are being met at the highest level. You're hungry, you're getting fed. When you get wet, you get changed. When you need to sleep, you sleep. And when you're happy and playful, guess what? You're awake. And when you're irritated, you cry. So you really have a very limited scope. And some people would say, well, is that due to naivete? Said, well, we could test the theory, but we know people that even as adults who are still exercising unconscious incompetence. They don't know what they don't know. And that's literally what that means. So as we're progressing and as we are going on this journey, we get to another level, which is conscious incompetence, where we're consciously exercising, engaging, but it's more like the practice, if you will. So we're just starting to learn how we can actually find our, and then this is where meaning starts happening, because now we start associating different feelings and our different experiences. It's like, okay.
Chuck, I actually like to think of the consciousness and competence as looking at things knowing that I don't know them. Like, for instance, if I'm going into calculus, I barely got through algebra. Like, I am consciously aware that I'm very incompetent when it comes to calculus. It's that it's an awareness of what we don't know.
Correct.
And I think that right now, especially now, because I do a lot of parenting coaching and kids, that is probably the biggest gap that I'm seeing between parents and kids is that, and I know you know too, so we're probably gonna admit this to you guys. We think we know what our kids are going through and feeling, and we want to help them so they don't get into the problems that we got into. And guess what? We don't know. And you know what? If I was going to be honest, I clearly know that I don't know what's going on outside those doors, because it has definitely changed with social media, with the way that the kids think, the upbringing that the millennials had. It's just everything has changed. We're in a digital world.
Oh, yeah.
The way that economy is, what our kids are learning at school in history is definitely different from what we learned. So I am very much aware that I don't know, even though I pretend a lot to think I know. Actually, I have an upper hand because I do have my clients that actually fill me in a lot. So, but that's a side note. But I just want parents to be aware, or people to be aware, how to differentiate between the unconscious incompetence versus the conscious incompetence.
Correct. The variegation on it is number one, awareness. Two, it doesn't mean that we're judging. See, consciousness literally means that we're placing focus and attention there. We just haven't gotten to the point yet where we're getting to that level that we are able to go ahead and making sure that we have all of these different modalities in place that are going to give us the ability to shift. And so why do I state it that way? I go, well, part of it is that if we're looking at it from a different set of eyes and we go, I wonder what it's going to take to actually shift myself. And I said, well, excuse the pun, shift happens. And it happens when we actually decide to accept the fact that we don't have the competency yet, and that's okay. We just haven't gotten there yet. Because this is the next level, which it really takes it to a whole nother level, is conscious competence. Where now we're seeing progress. We're getting kind of like states evidence that, hey, you know what? This is worth it, and it's happening, and I'm feeling great about it. This is where we start to use the terminology like progress equals happiness, and we can see possibilities and opportunities. Sometimes in the conscious incompetence, we're like going, "Ooh, this is the frustration level part," because we don't really feel like we're getting the traction that we desire. So, couple rules real quick. One, don't fake it till you make it achieve. So ordinary things done consistently produce extraordinary results. This is where time blocking, dedicated, because we get to feed our mind and our competency, and we get it sleep. And so,
I think that some people get really frustrated too in that movement, right?
Where
okay, I'm aware that I don't know this, and then I think I've learned it, and then when I go to apply it, I don't get the results I'm looking for.
And that's because many people judge instead of measure.
Yes.
They don't look where they started. They're just looking at, okay, I'm here. Why am I not at the destination yet? And I said, it's kind of like, again, learn to love to walk, because on your journey, you're going to hit milestones if you just, instead of just always having to have the destination point, you're going to get to the destination because you're in motion and movement.
And I always look at this as the bridge from the conscious incompetence to the conscious competence as the bridge of progress.
Yes, that's beautiful, because we're closing the gap. And in fact, the beautiful part is by having this process in place and exercising and connecting ourselves, it literally gives us the ability to close the gap so much faster. And as we continue about judgment, because now we're not going down the rabbit hole, we're not playing the blame game, where it becomes unbelievably beautiful, is where it's kind of like you and your speaking engagements and your ability to be able to deliver from stage and any form. It almost becomes unconscious competence, where now it's like breathing. It's like your heartbeat. You don't really think about it. In fact, it actually has to do more with your being your true self. And now everything's flowing to you in abundance. It's not something that you calculate, but you can actually exercise influence and shift your intention and your focus in milliseconds, because you have command of these skills.
And that's the difference, though. I would say from conscious competence to unconscious competence is the flow. We talked about the difference of being and doing a few weeks ago. And again, we continue to link everything together. And when you are in full flow, when you're doing what you love, I was just talking to you about the talk I did in Vegas. fortunate to share a stage with Joseph McClendon III and Les Brown and a few other amazing speakers. And just being in flow, and I say, in my belief, connecting to source, being able to just give everything I got with not being in my head of thinking, okay, what's next? What do I need to say next? Where am I at? As a matter of fact, when I changed the slide and I looked to see if the slides was matching, and I went into my head, and it totally took me out. And I had to go back to conscious competence to figure out where I'm at to keep picking up. But as soon as I as soon as I trusted what was in me and came through me, I was able to deliver on point without it.
Excuse me.
Right. And I share this because that is really what Chuck and I are talking about when you go into the unconscious competence. And I teach people how to be coaches. In the Neuroencoding Institute, I have the pleasure of being the coaching instructor. And so every week I'm on calls with about 30 to 50 people, teaching them new skills on being coach. And they've always said, can you write a book on these questions that you ask? I'm telling you, Veenu, you have the best questions. Like, anybody comes to you and just without top of your head, you just ask this amazing question. It's like mind blowing. And I said, no, I can't, because I'm in flow.
Yes.
And I tell people, you get to that unconscious competence the more you get into practice. And when you get into that practice and you start living it and being it instead of doing it, is that shift.
It is. And there's a word for it. Present. You're present and authentic. When we're living in this space, that grace, what we start to find is that there's a connectivity that we don't have to think about. And in fact, to your point, when we get sidetracked for a moment, when we start to check ourselves, and I go, oh, were you measuring? And I go, well, the minute I look at another screen, I'm not connected to self. I've removed myself, me, and I'm not flowing. And so I'm looking for an exterior stimuli for affirmation or confirmation that I'm on the right track. Not necessary.
Right.
Referencing something is different than looking at it from the standpoint of going, oh, I need to affirm and get public acknowledgement. I go, no, you can feel it. You know when you're in it, and others feel you when you're in it as well. And so part of this comes down to a question. And that is, well, then how do you know when you are unconsciously competent?
For me, again, like I said, when I'm unconsciously competent, I'm not thinking of what the results are going to be from what I'm doing.
Yes.
Like you said, I'm fully present in the moment in that conversation. And so when we're having this conversation right now, I'm not thinking, okay, what does the audience want to hear? How am I going to deliver it? What do I need to say? Exactly. It is just, I'm really tuning into what does that mean to me? And I'm going to be honest, it's a feeling inside of me when we're just going and flowing in the conversation, and it flows to wherever it goes. Right. And with that, it's so funny that you say that, because when the other day somebody asked me, can you write down some of the things that you said? I don't even know what I say half the time.
Exactly. But that's the point. It's kind of like going, count how many you had today. Count how many times you breathed in and out. What? I do that automatically. It's unconscious competence. In fact, it happens when I sleep at night, and I don't need to think about it. And it's like, thank goodness. I love this part of my, if you want to call it, engagement to self. So part of this is that when we trust, number one, it doesn't mean we don't strive standards of existence and presence. It literally just means something else, and that is grace and gratitude for that moment in that space of being connected to everything and nothing.
Right. And here's, now, when we talk about being connected to it, here's the one thing that will get you out of it. The moment you're looking for, it's judgment. The minute you're judging or you feel judged, the minute that you have to calculate what the results are going to be from the conversation or the question, when you start asking yourself, am I doing it right? Because I love that question. You know, I'm a 1 on the Enneagram. There's a right, I tell everybody there really is a right and a wrong way in my life. And the minute I go there, though, is the minute I'm fully out of the presence of what I'm doing, because now I'm in the presence of the results. I'm in the presence of what others are going to think.
Yes.
I'm in the presence of foreshadowing what's coming up and not being present in the moment.
Yes.
To really receive and give. And it's that accumulation that goes like that cycle.
When people get stuck in the doings, what's next? Am I on track? Am I following the flow? And I go, well, you know the flow. You're the one that created it. Whose talk is it? Your talk. Whose conversation? It's the one that you're engaged in. And so really, it's more so about honoring self. And I love what you said, Veenu, and this is so imperative. So you don't take away anything, y'all, from tonight except this one thing. Put judgment to the side. Seriously. Love a freaking Pete. Do you have to be right? Does someone have to tell you that you're right? Because if your desire, and in fact, I'm going to put it a different way. I'm going to be a little harsh for a moment. I apologize. If you need to be acknowledged, then your engagement is not real.
Because that is, wait, that is good. I'm sorry. I have to stop you because I have not heard that. I have not heard that before. That is so good, Chuck.
Well, we don't want to get caught in trying to be strategic. We don't want to be caught in just living in response factor where now we're trying to influence other people. I said, okay, if real giving is value, and we know that that's the proposition that we really all aspire is to sharing, then I don't need acknowledgement for that. I really don't. In fact, what I really need is for you to just hear it and let it marinate. However it strikes you in that time, in that moment. Because frankly, the way it lands isn't up to me. And that's the gift of being present, is that it may not be the one thing that you thought was the pile driver concept. Yay, the crescendo. That was gold. That was magic, Jerry. Magic. And now, what if it was something more simple?
Right.
What if it was just the presence and connecting and someone felt valued or less judgmental or their truth?
You know why?
In a moment.
You know why people have a lack of this? And again, my opinion,
Please.
But I'd like to hear your opinion about this. It's they're afraid they'll end up being lonely. Because, you know, if I say something to you, Chuck, and you take offense to it, or I say something and it's wrong, then you might not come back to me. You may not engage with me again. You may not want to be my friend. You may not invite me somewhere. You'll say, oh, we don't have anything in common, so I don't really like her. We want to be liked. We want to be liked because we want to feel connected. Yes. And I get everybody wants to feel enough, and you and I are going to have another topic about being enough a later day. And we want to be enough because we want to be liked. We want to be liked. We want people to want us. We want people to connect with us. Yes. And that's what judgment does. We judge ourselves because we want to fix us before someone else can judge us.
That's the presupposition, is that if we don't like us and then someone else doesn't give me an acknowledgement, then they're affirming that I'm not good enough. And it's like, really, dude? Really? Like that? Are you freaking kidding me? Because it's not true. The truth is that in that you're seeking connection.
Right.
And if you lack connection to self, this is one of the reasons why the best speakers in the world, the best, they don't go on stage going, I suck. This is crazy. I'm going to blow it. No, they go, you know what? I give grace and faith right now that the universe is going to stand and deliver for me. I believe that I'm here for a purpose, a reason, a season, and an opportunity. May the Holy Ghost, the universe, the spirit, every photon, neutron, electron in my body Give me the knowledge, brevity, sense of humor, articulation, intelligence to stand and deliver right now. I go, okay, there's a level of appreciation at that point. You're not there by happenstance. Someone invited you to be there.
Right. And it's so funny because you're right. I mean, when I first became a speaker, I was like, okay, I have to do it. I have to rehearse. I have to have every word right. I have to. I forgot that I get to. I get to be a part of this. I get to impact people's lives. I get to present, and no one's judging. It was so funny because when I went on stage, I was talking about the difference of, a vision versus a dream, and I was on there and I said, and I was talking about this vision I had when I was little, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, and I even envision right now having the clicker in my hand because they didn't give me the clicker when I went on stage. So I had no way to change my slides. And it's just, and I didn't, here's the difference. I didn't think about how am I going to get the clicker? What can I say? It was unconsciously competent to just, and I would envision a clicker in my hand. And we all laughed and they ran and gave me a clicker. And at times I had a piece of hair in my mouth. I'm like, excuse me, I'm a speaker and I'm trying to get this hair out of my mouth, please. It was the best talk I ever did because I got to be me.
Yes.
I didn't judge. What are they going to think? Oh, I shouldn't have done that. Oh gosh, you know what? You know what could have been better? It could have been better if I had the clicker and I didn't have to say that. Not one thing about that came in to my thought process. But I'll tell you, this is where I measured, right? I didn't judge. And I love that you say that. The difference is measurement versus judgment. Because, I mean, you've known me for a long time. The old me really would have beat myself up. The old me would have been like, oh my God, that was horrible. I can't believe I didn't have the clicker. Why did they give me the clicker? They should have done that. And the way they put my mic on, it took my hair and it put it in my mouth. Why didn't they just have someone better to do that? Instead, I just measured. I measured where I used to be and how I felt. And I really got to feel the audience.
Yes.
And the message that I was delivering. So when it was all said and done, none of that even mattered. I don't think anybody even remembered.
When you're living in appreciation and you're really living in the moment, other people appreciate you and they connect to you. That's when you're tapped in to influence, to move people, it's like the most I've ever been moved is by authentic and real and honest and integrous. And there is no presupposition. There is nothing more than to serve. In that authenticity, you really feel the soul and the experience and the pain and the pleasure and the adulation. But I want to honor you in two areas that I believe you've shifted dramatically because, yes, we've known each other for a long time. One, you celebrate more now than you ever have. Two, you're living completely in the moment and not worried about what the consequence is because you're in the moment. I know that Veenu Keller is being her best and she will do her best. That is gorgeous. That is a gift for everyone around you.
Thank you.
So, thank you for that.
I receive that. And so, Chuck, here's a question because I want to bring it to, since we're talking about living now with us, how people are hearing the different things on social media and the news and how they're interpreting it. And so when do we get to believe the information we're hearing is at an unconscious competence level where people are actually in flow? They're sharing information because it's coming through them, not from other sources that they need to gossip about, and they need to create the uncertainty and the scarcity to get us scared to follow a certain way versus those that are consciously incompetent that are trying to influence us. And I think that, it's not even just with kids, like even us, I have people saying like, what's happening with the economy, Veenu? Have you heard anything? Because you and I are in higher mastermind type groups and we're in different types of, forms, if you would, that bring this information at a higher level in an unconscious competence way. We're tapped into these people that can bring it. And so people come to us but they're coming in such fear. And that's where I think that if we tonight can help people to really know again, it goes back to our talk we just had a couple weeks ago. It's like, who are we listening to? Where's the chatter coming from that we're allowing to come into our life and influence our life?
Well, there's several facets to this. One is that there's these algorithms that are running constantly. And so unconsciously, and this is where unconscious competence, conscious incompetence, all of these modalities are actually funneling around us in technology as well. And they come in the form of social media. There's a saying, 10 the weeds to the garden of your mind. And the reason for that is that if what you put in as garbage unconsciously, what you're going to start to process, because it's the only food that you're eating. So it's kind of like if all you eat is ho-hos and Twinkies, start to see a shift in your body. Yes, that's not like yellow food dye number 5, fake and sponge cake. It does not a body build. And so
Right.
this is, that doesn't feed your mind either. If all is binging on sweetness, so to speak, you're not getting the sustenance that you need. And so we have an opportunity, and that is to not question, but more so to create more clarity and awareness around the standards that we're keeping relative to what we're feeding our body, mind, and spirit. So as an example, the human condition is that if it's easy, in many instances, we call that sustainable or comfortable.
Yes.
Give me an example, Chuck. Okay. You buy stuff on Amazon. You buy stuff online. It shows up to your house. You don't have to drive anywhere. It's the brand that you like. It's the brand that you know. It doesn't mean it's the best brand or the one that you. It just means that because you have had a buying habit, and now here's the interesting part. All these systems are tied together. So when you go on the World Wide Web and you start to Google something, all the modalities of how things are being pulled together start to coalesce, and you're now being influenced and fed. Hey, this shows up in your feed. Hey, this text message shows up. Why? Because you bought this particular brand of coffee one time, or you look online this pair of jeans or these shoes, or because you subscribe, and now they have this whole program where it puts you into Gucci and Cheruti and Kamali and Jimmy Choo, and it's like, why the hell all of a sudden are you getting like 50 different advertisements and pop-ups on your phone? And that's what's coming up in your search engines as well.
Right.
It feeds the narrative because it knows you're looking for connection. And so it's all feeding convenience. And here's the thing about convenience and comfort. Very, very important. There's no growth in comfort. Zero.
Right.
It's literally existence. One of the reasons why we're seeing such a large proclivity of people becoming great consumers, but not graders, not great providers, not great expanders. In fact, many people are contracting because they feel that their needs are being met. These algorithms aren't feeding needs, they're plugging wants. And the more wants they propagate for you, we look at it as possibilities, and all they are is options.
So, I just wanted to build off of what you were saying about the easy versus hard. I used to tell people if it was easy, it wasn't worth it. And they're like, what? And I said, well, think about it. Tell me some of the accomplishments you've had, So I'll even ask you, Chuck, give me just off the top of the head, five accomplishments you've had in your life that you can actually remember.
One, marrying my wife. 3 of my children. I mean, seriously, you know me. It's family is everything. I would say that, when I decided to start Your Best Life and stop playing small, when you and I decided to do this show together, these are things I'm so proud of because they feed me and they allow me to be me.
Right.
All 5 of those incidents are like huge.
So out of those 5 incidents, tell me which one was easy.
Oh gosh.
Exactly.
The good news was, at least with the 3 kids, I didn't have to birth them. So God bless
Okay.
my.
So Poor Julie. Okay, so it wasn't so easy for Julie. It was easy for you. But but still, right? So we
Right.
remember things that took work. We remember the things that we put our attention into. We don't remember the things that were easy.
No.
It's what comes to my mind are my degrees, my kids, my divorce, my new marriage, then finding out I'm having twins again. Everything that I am so proud of.
Yes.
All the accomplishments that I could look back, not one thing didn't take some blood, sweat, and tears to do. Everything that I am proud of, that I have grown from, has took work, and it's hard. And sometimes I was frustrated. My expectations didn't go the way I wanted. It wasn't as quick as I wanted. Sometimes it was faster than I wanted. There was always judgment around it, for sure. But it's the judgment that kept me in those emotions of upset, discomfort, overwhelm. And I'm going to be honest, because we're coaches, and I'm sure that you can concur with that, when I see a client not making progress or whatnot, I look at the fact that there's a lot of these emotions that stop them. They get into overwhelm, upset, disillusion, and they're like, you know what? I give up. Like, this is too hard. I'm not going to do it. And when we are able to guide them to go through it, not around it, right? We grow through it. The beauty's on the other end. And then when we ask them, so what did it mean to you? And they're everything. It meant everything to them. It's that push through that moment of those emotions that we, feel that we have to stop through. And we'll do a different show about all these emotions and stuff. However, for the sake of this conversation, it's push through the hard, because on the other side of hard is your greatness.
I have a buddy, and he's a business associate as well. And he says, you got to eat the frog first. I was like, well, first of all, boo. But he has a point.
I heard it tastes like chicken.
And yeah, hey, the French love it. So it's interesting when we start to your point, and I love that you framed it that way, Veenu. There's this part of it is, and this is uber, and I pray that you all get this. How you feel most often is imperative. Because if you're in overwhelm, like to Veenu's point, or if you're in judgment where you're feeling low energy, so you're compressing yourself, you're minimalizing self, you're marginalizing self, it is extremely difficult to raise your energy to appease someone else when you're not even meeting yourself. So the rule is meet yourself where you're at first, and appreciate where you're at. Be in gratitude, so now you can actually be your best. Whatever that is in the moment. That doesn't mean it's perfect. In fact, it doesn't even mean that you have to be 75, 80, 90%. It just means you. Be freaking you and appreciate you in that moment. It sounds easy, and there's a lot of people who don't. And I've been guilty of that by my own admission. It's like, hey, I had a rough day. Hey, didn't go exactly the way I planned it. In fact, it wasn't even freaking on my radar. And when we get to understand that many other people who love us, there are many other people who respect us, but there's no one that's going to love you more than love yourself to make you happy. And I can't even stress this enough. I love, as you mentioned, Joseph, and Joseph's such a dear person, a dear friend, and I love what he said. And he goes, everybody, and those that don't just don't know me yet. It's like he has this ideology, and I love that about him. And I go, and it's true. The connection that we're looking for is connection to self, and it's the loneliest place for most people right now. And the crazy part about this is we're running a negative algorithm in our own life where people are being disenfranchised by themselves because of false narratives in front of themselves, and they keep feeding it with false information by masking it. Why? Because if I bought another car, if I got those pair of shoes, if I took this vacation, then I'd be worthy. And I go, Wow. Wow. Really interesting. There was I don't know, I think it was Jim Carrey, and he was at the, was it the People's Choice Award? Um, and so he gets on stage and he's actually presenting, and this is beautiful. And he goes, they go, and welcome to the stage, Golden Globe award-winning Jim Carrey. And he walks up and he goes, good evening, everyone. I am two-time Golden Globe winning Jim Carrey. And I was preparing for this talk tonight. I was thinking to myself, what would two-time Golden Globe Jim Carrey say to everyone else? In fact, what does this man dream about at night? He goes, you know what I dream about at night? Being three-time Golden Globe winning Jim Carrey, because then I would be worthy. And I was like, and he was joking, but kind of not. And it's
Right.
like, at what point in time are you worthy enough? At what point in time are you going to decide to start celebrating? Because you hit the nail on the head. All these accolades, your degrees, your divorce, your new marriage, your twins, everything to celebrate. Had you not celebrated, though, it wouldn't be where you're at now.
Correct.
Because you would have been waiting for the next thing, the next hit.
I think it's important also because, and again, we'll do a show on this, but the whole worthiness, I've been doing this a lot lately because, here's the problem, and this is the truth. People don't even understand what worth is. They don't know what self-worth is. So they say, oh, I have no self-worth. Well, how do you know?
Right.
Have you ever had it? Well, I don't know. Well, what would it feel like? I don't know. What does it look like? I don't know. So how do you know if you have it or not? But we're all claiming that we don't have it. And what I've realized is that if there is a metaphor, which I use because I work with kids, so I need to put it in a way that kids will understand it, because my goal is to give kids a childhood they don't have to heal from.
Right.
And in order to do that, it starts with their worth. And so I tell kids, I said, how do you know that you had enough? How do you know your stomach is full when you're hungry? And they're like, well, my stomach stops hurting and I just feel fulfilled. Like my stomach feels fulfilled because you fed it enough food, right? So if you were going to look at schoolwork, you were going to look at your parents, you were going to look at your friends, you were going to look at, some of them have a job.
Right.
Are you fulfilled? Are you fulfilled? Have you had enough? Are you enough in that role? And they're like, I mean, I never thought of that way. But if you say that way, yes, yes, and no. And the no was in their social life. And I said, so what would you need to know that you were filled? You were filled up. You were fulfilling your role as a friend to your friends. And they said, well, I would be invited more to the parties. I would be invited to some of the sleepovers. People would include me when they're talking at lunch. And I said, okay, so all of a sudden now we had a recipe of what they needed in order to feel fulfilled in that area. But everything else, they were fulfilled with their parents. They were fulfilled with their grades. They were fulfilled at their job. And all of a sudden it dawned on them that, wait, I do have worth. I do have value. I am enough. I am enough. And I don't think that these kids have ever said that before because they were so looking at, I'm not enough. I have no value. I have no value.
They're looking at what's missing, what's been omitted, correct, and they're taking the 90% side for the 10%. And in most instances, it's not even that. It's like 2%.
Well, and
I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say the reason why we do that is that we have been taught that if we're broken, and we've said this before, if I'm broken and I fix it, then I'm better and then you'll like me. But we don't have to be broken to be liked. We don't have to be broken to be good.
And here's the whole ticket. It's so simple. We're all jonesing for two things: to feel a certain way, and we're all addicted to energy.
Yes.
So when we don't feel the energetic connection, we feel less than. Why? Because your energy is resonating at a low frequency. You're not there. You're not in gratitude. The 90% of the stuff that's going great, the job, the school, awesome. And you're like, yeah, but I'm missing this. Here's the crazy part. The stuff that they think is missing is most of the time freaking overrated, because who they would have to be or the values that they would have to go against to even consider possibly being in those groups. They think they know, and they don't, because it's
It's
someone else's group. It's someone
so
else's algorithm. It's someone else's influence, and
and it,
that's not even their reality.
and it goes back to that the competence we were talking about, right? Is that they don't know what really
What
is
they
in
don't know.
they think they do,
Exactly.
but they don't. And it
Well,
brings us full circle back into this whole levels of competency, right? Of like how we learn things.
when we're buying someone else's cooking, or we're eating someone else's cooking, and I go, well, have you enjoyed one of your meals? Like, do you enjoy what you're putting out? Because frankly, I think you're an amazing cook of life and happiness and opportunity and connection. And yet, instead of feeling good about you, you're aspiring to feel good else that you think should like you, but you don't even really like them. Wait, what? Like, what do you respect about this person? Oh, they have influence. Oh, they're popular. And I go, great. Why? Why? Because they're controversial? Is it because they're so kind? If they were that kind, you wouldn't have to pander to create connection with someone. So this goes back to the whole thing with like Simon Sinek, and that is, there are no rules. If your rule is, oh, they're popular, and if I'm around them, then I'll be popular and happy too. And I go, that's not the way this works. If your values are aligned, then it's like going, I don't have to push to try and create connection with someone, because I'm already sharing that energy and that space and that frequency with them. And I'm actually attracting these people into my world. It's like, oh, it feels so much better. Whew, I didn't have to work for this. I got to flow into this. That's the
Right.
gift. That's the gift. But these algorithms that we talk about and offers that we're talking about are other people's marketing and strategies. It's no different than Amazon Web Services, who's gathering all your data and then giving you push through.
And then
Or
again, it goes back to what we were saying is who are we listening to? What's the chatter that we're allowing to impinge upon our minds that create the weeds to grow?
the why. Why are we listening? Why is this important? Why? This is when we go back to, you and I've discussed this, Veenu. If you know how you need to feel, we'll start picking a direction. It's like, what direction do you need to go in to feel this way most often? Is it mean people, judge people, influential people, or is it being around real people, loving, kind people, having great conversations where you feel full? Because I'm gonna complain for just a moment, because this used to bother me. We know a lot of people in behavioral sciences, and they go, "Show me the evidence. How do you know that you're making progress?" And I would say, because I'm gonna feel unbelievably happy. I'm gonna feel like me and full. They go, "Oh, come on, that's pretty woo-woo," and I go, "What else?" Because I put $1 million in the bank and I still feel cruddy because I don't feel fulfilled. I don't feel connected. I'm like, wait, so what's more important than feeling you in a whole? I get
Well,
it.
it's so interesting you say that. You and I are so aligned. I was thinking yesterday, or the other day, I was like in Vegas doing the speaking thing, and I was thinking of like all these artists in concert and all these actors and stuff. And when it came to artists, not that I know every single artist out there, the ones that I have known have all had substance abuse issues. You are a freaking rock star. People want to be you. People want to be next to you, and you still have to use a substance. What are you escaping from? What is the feeling you're really looking for? That euphoria, that happiness. And here's the key. Again, we'll probably have to do a show on this, Chuck. It's we need somebody to start taking notes of what shows we're going to do it, really. But I don't think people know what true happiness is.
It's
I really don't. I don't think they know what happiness is. And so they're reaching and they're continuing to reach for it, and they're not getting it. I mean, what does that look like to you? What does that feel like to you? And so when you don't know, you're constantly searching for that high. And for me, I mean, gosh, to be in front of a million people performing and them singing my songs and emulating me and wearing my face on their shirts and quoting my stuff and singing my songs in the shower, I would be elated personally. And yet they're still not.
that
So again, we can blame it on anything, but the truth is, it comes down to one of the things that you said, and you said it so beautiful, my brother. It's how do you feel? What feeling are you trying to achieve?
it's that simple. We make stuff so complicated. Every day, I believe that people wake up and they have an aspiration to feel a number of different ways because it's not just one way. You know,
Right.
again, I think people go, well, how many emotions are there? Well, there's literally in the dictionary 30,000 different words that
Oh, wow.
describe emotions. That's it. But most people in their lifetime will experience, and most people are only living 6 to 7 on a regular basis. So
Mm,
why is this important? Because tense is this: most people are running a happiness adoption program.
mm.
They don't happiness is to them, and yet they're espousing that, hey, this person looks happy all the time, and I'm going, yes, it appears that way, doesn't it? But does it
Smoky
feel that way? Yeah, exactly. But does it feel that way? Because behind the scenes, you start to see, and it's like, are they really happy? Are they full? And you're like going, oh, well, you don't see that they have the car service, and why? Well, because they're getting drunk in the back, or because they're having to take a hit of something to neutralize their body and to mellow
right?
themselves out. And they go, well, okay, dude, like you drugs and you don't drink. And I said, no, I don't. I never have, ever. Ask anyone who knows it. You can ask my wife. And people go, wait, what? Yeah. Now, granted, A's and flush is real with me, but I don't have any other illicit biochemicals in my body. Why? Because I've got enough of them in my body already. There's dopamine and adrenaline, and all these
And
different.
it's finding out the activities that elicit those.
Yes.
When I was with, some friends this weekend and we went to a show and we were just laughing in life and we were sober and there was no alcohol, there was no drugs. And when they say get high off life, like that is it. It's high in the moment, meaning the feeling of excitement and joy and euphoria and joking and laughter. And it didn't cost me anything. It cost me to be present. It cost me to find my tribe. And that's just it, is finding your real tribe that's going to keep building you up and sharing the values that you share. If you want to know if someone's really happy and joy, spend time with them and close doors.
Oh yeah.
See
Peer
what's really
group.
going on.
Listen,
And
and be yourself. Because the only
yeah,
way that you're going to find that peer group is if you're being authentically you. It's dumbfounding to me to see that people that fake it till you make it ideology, and they get into these spaces and environments and they're not being real at all. In fact, it's all tense, it's all posturing. And they're like, oh, dress to impress, and the car and the house and the keys and the jewelry. I was reminded of Adam Sandler, and I believe he's worth like $480 million, and he doesn't wear jewelry. He doesn't wear fancy clothes. He's not, pomp and
he's humble.
circumstance the flesh. Well, it's not even that. He's real. It has nothing to do with humility for him. It's one simple thing. He needs to be him, and he takes care of all his friends. I mean, that's why you see the same people in the movies all the time. But he
Right.
shared the wealth. He shared progress and the happiness and the adulation. His way of giving back to everybody else is surrounding himself with really amazing people. How beautiful is that?
I think that is. And so, we just have like another minute left. And I just want to say, just to circle back around these levels of, competency, if you can understand them, it will help you to, again, I love what you said, to stop judging and start measuring. You know, we're all a work in progress. We're all here to do the best that we can with what we have. And when we know better, we can do better. And, that's why, Chuck and I brought this show to you guys because, we want to help people to impact the world to do better. And the only way that we know how to do that is by sharing these messages with you and just talking real and raw like we have been.
It's what we do and it's who we are. So, Veenu, I love you. You're amazing. And bless you, my sister. I'm so grateful for you on so many levels.
Back at you, my brother. Back at you. If you are finding value in our conversation, please join us live. Join us on Facebook. We have different groups and we're both on Facebook. We'd love to chat with you more. This show can also be heard on Spanglish Radio Network. Please check out www.spanglishworld.ca for all your news and programming. Spanglish World, watch it, hear it, read it, download it, and live it.